Today is Wednesday, December 27th. What to know about thousands of people heading to the U.S. Mexico border seeking asylum in what's thought to be the largest migrant caravan in at least a year and a half. Also, the latest about America's role in the war in Gaza and the first significant update in Ukraine in months. Plus, rapper Ye apologized in Hebrew. Which type of work model could soon be the new norm? And what to expect from the 2024 countdown in Times Square. Those stories and even more news to know in today's episode. Welcome to The Newsworthy. All the day's news in around 10 minutes. Fast, fair, fun, and on the go. I'm Erica Mandy. Thanks so much for being here. You ready? Let's do this. Another massive migrant caravan is moving through Mexico on the way to the American border. Reports say this is the largest migrant caravan in more than a year, with more than 8,000 asylum seekers en route, carrying large signs that read "Exodus from Poverty." And one activist who's with the group says it could grow to 15,000 people by the time it reaches the U.S. But American authorities are already overwhelmed. Customs and Border Patrol sources have told Fox News there have been more than 730,000 migrant encounters at the border since October. And the flow of migrants has not slowed down at all over the holidays. In fact, it's only picked up. Today, top Biden administration officials like Secretary of State Antony Blinken and Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas are set to meet with their Mexican counterparts to talk about solutions. In the past, Mexico has said it's open to helping keep migrants from crossing, but the Mexican government has some demands for the U.S., like it wants to see the U.S. give more money to struggling Latin American countries, which may give people more incentive to stay home. This is all expected to come up in meetings today. Well, as expected, Israel's fighting in Gaza is expanding even more, despite calls for the country to start scaling back from what's become one of the most devastating military campaigns in recent history. Most recently, Israeli forces announced a new battle zone in central Gaza. They've ordered civilians to evacuate and have bombarded more crowded Palestinian communities where Israel says Hamas fighters are hiding and planning future terror attacks. On top of that, Gaza lost all communication with the outside world yesterday, since phone and internet connections were cut off for at least the 6th time since the war broke out in October. Now, the United Nations says it's gravely concerned about this latest stage of war. But Israel is also drawing a line in the sand with the UN. Remember, UN leaders have been calling for a ceasefire for weeks now. So Israel is calling the UN a complicit partner with the Hamas terror group. And the Israeli government recently said it would no longer grant automatic visas to UN employees, something the UN says could hurt aid efforts in Gaza. Meanwhile, Iranian-backed militia groups around the Middle East are still stepping up their attacks against Israel in support of Hamas. Israeli forces have been exchanging fire with militants across their borders and in the Red Sea almost daily, though it's getting some help from the U.S. and other allies in the Red Sea. Just yesterday, the Pentagon says the U.S. military shot down 12 drones and 5 missiles. The U.S. is involved in many other ways, too. Like yesterday, President Biden spoke with Qatar's leaders about rescuing the rest of the hostages who Hamas kidnapped from Israel back in October. The leaders also spoke about getting more humanitarian aid into those who need it. Plus, the U.S. is still providing military aid to Israel. American officials say, even though they don't agree with everything Israel has done tactically, that ultimately the allies are still on the same side with the ultimate goal of defeating Hamas. To be continued. There have finally been some developments in Ukraine as Russia's war has largely settled into a deadlock. This week, Ukrainian warplanes damaged a major Russian warship in the Black Sea. While Russia says it was damaged, while a Ukrainian military official says it was destroyed. Either way, that's one of the most significant attacks against Russia's fleet in months, especially since there was some speculation it was carrying ammunition and Iranian-made drones that Russia has been using in battle. But Ukraine has also faced another setback. After months of battling Russian forces for control of an eastern Ukrainian city, Ukraine's troops largely retreated this week, and Russia is considering it a win. Of course, the overall war is far from one, with both sides still determined to fight. And Ukraine says a lot of the future depends on what support it gets from allies. Here in the U.S., President Biden is still struggling to convince enough lawmakers to support more American assistance for Ukraine. Congress is expected to reconvene in the new year to discuss it more. The U.S. Justice Department says it's seeing an unprecedented rise in threats to public officials all around the country. Most of the time, the threats are resolved without any real incident happening, but officials are staying vigilant. Just one of the investigations the FBI is working on now involves the Colorado Supreme Court. That's the court that ruled former President Trump was ineligible for the 2024 presidential race because of his role in the Capitol riot, saying his name needed to be removed from Colorado's primary ballots. And since then, Denver police have increased security for members of the court. and federal, state, and local law enforcement officials are still monitoring the rhetoric online. Millions of Americans have been dealing with a dangerous winter storm right in the middle of the country. Blizzard conditions have led to several crashes and at times closed roads, highways, and interstates in places like Kansas, Colorado, Nebraska, and the Dakotas. The biggest issues have been blinding snow and high winds, though ice and freezing rain has also caused trouble. And in many places, drivers have been asked to avoid the roads completely until the weather improves. At the airports, hundreds of flights have had to be either delayed or canceled. Thankfully, things are expected to get at least a little bit better today for the plains and upper Midwest, but snow has still been falling across several states overnight. And snow is expected to move into more of the Midwest today and tomorrow. More news is still coming up, but first, a quick break for our sponsor. I know you are someone who values your time and appreciates high quality mixed with efficiency, like the newsworthy. So that's why I know you'll love Uncommon Goods for all your shopping in the new year. Uncommon Goods scours the globe for you to find the most remarkable and truly unique gifts. From art and jewelry to kitchen, home, and bar, Uncommon Goods has such a variety of items that all somehow feel fun, unique, and personal. Not the same lackluster gifts you can find just anywhere. And when you shop at Uncommon Goods, you are also supporting artists and small independent businesses. And I love that with every purchase you make at Uncommon Goods, they give back $1 to a nonprofit partner of your choice. They've donated more than $2.5 million to date. To get 15% off your next gift or item, go to uncommongoods.com/newsworthy. That's uncommongoods.com/newsworthy for 15% off. Don't miss out on this limited time offer. Uncommon Goods, we're all out of the ordinary. Okay, now back to the news. This might be a good time to stock up on tissues, cough drops, and painkillers. American health officials say respiratory illnesses like flu, RSV, and COVID-19 are spreading widely, especially in the Southeast. Hospitals are getting busy, and infections are really expected to ramp up everywhere in the coming weeks. An increase isn't that unusual for this time of year. It's actually pretty typical that people spread germs at holiday gatherings. But this year, the CDC says it could be even worse than usual since people are traveling a lot more this season than the last few years. Also, less than half of Americans are fully vaccinated for either flu or COVID, and a new version of COVID might be spreading more easily. Though don't worry, there's no evidence at this point that the new strain causes more severe disease than any other variants. And current vaccines and antiviral medications should still work against it. Same with the flu. Early signs suggest current vaccines are well matched to the strain that's causing the most illnesses. And it's not too late to get the shots if you haven't had them yet, as health officials say the flu season can go into March. Healthcare providers have also been told to encourage patients to get their COVID-19 vaccines, and for those who are eligible, RSV vaccines too. Americans spent big this holiday season, easing economic worries going into the new year. MasterCard Spending Pulse says from November through Christmas Eve, sales increased more than 3% this year as compared to last year. That's across all forms of payment, both in-store and online. The data shows restaurants and clothing companies performed especially well since November. But shoppers didn't fork over as much on electronics and jewelry this holiday season. Another thing that changed in spending habits this year, a lot more people seem to wait until the last minute to shop. Some analysts say last Saturday, December 23rd, was actually the biggest sales day of the whole year. Musician Ye, formerly known as Kanye West, seems to be trying to make amends for his anti-Semitic comments. Ye posted messages in Hebrew on social media yesterday, asking for the Jewish community's forgiveness for what he calls, quote, any unplanned outburst. The rapper and producer also said he regrets any pain his words caused and says he's committed to becoming more sensitive and understanding. Ye has made several anti-Semitic posts and comments over the past year or so, including earlier this month while promoting his upcoming album in Las Vegas. Companies like Adidas and Gap, among others, cut ties with him in 2022. Talent agency CAA also let him go. While the Anti-Defamation League welcomed Ye's apology, it noted actions will speak louder than words. Though the American Jewish Committee was less receptive to his statement, it says posting a message in Hebrew was beyond bizarre and possibly a ploy to gain more attention. It's not clear what prompted his apology post, but it does come ahead of that release of a new album. New York City is getting ready to ring in the new year. The numbers 2024 were placed in their spot in Times Square yesterday. They'll be officially revealed on New Year's Eve after the nearly 6-ton Waterford crystal ball drops. In the days ahead of the big event, the New York Police Department is stepping up security, while New Yorkers and New York City tourists are making a game plan. Of course, actually showing up to Times Square requires a lot of dedication, since it means spending hours outside in potentially below freezing temperatures without access to bathrooms. There are other options, but they're pricey. For example, getting a table at the Applebee's in Times Square will cost you $650. Going to the AMC movie theater nearby will cost $500. And to ring in the new year at the Marriott Marquis, it will cost more than $6,000 a person. Though that's just part of a package that also includes dinner and an open bar. For the rest of us, watching from home will do just fine. As always, Dick Clark's New Year's Rockin' Eve will air on ABC. There's also New Year's Eve Live with Anderson Cooper and Andy Cohen on CNN. This year's big event will feature live performances from Flo Rida, Megan Thee Stallion, Sabrina Carpenter, Jelly Roll, and more. And we'll add a few links to our episode notes where you can find live streams to the ball drop, too. That's it for the main news today, so now it's time for Work Wednesday, when we break down one interesting career or work-related news story every Wednesday. But first, a break for our sponsor. So the reason I've moved away from a daily multivitamin is because I'm now drinking AG1 every day. And AG1 is a foundational nutrition supplement that can replace your multivitamin and probiotic and really support whole body health. AG1 makes me feel like I'm ready to take on the day, that I've done something good for my body first thing in the morning. I drink it before I eat anything. And I've noticed a nice boost in energy too. I also appreciate that it's easy to put my AG1 into a to-go cup and take it with me, whether that's around the house, on a walk, or in the car. And that it's just one simple, drinkable habit. 1 scoop of AG1 mixed with water, that's it. Anything that helps me save time and makes me feel good? Yes, please. If you're looking for a simpler, effective investment for your health, try AG1 and get 5 free AG1 travel packs and a free 1-year supply of vitamin D with your first purchase. Go to drinkag1.com/newsworthy. That's drinkag1.com/newsworthy. Check it out. Okay, now back to Work Wednesday. It seems both fully remote work and full return to office mode are on their way out. While far more employees are still working from home now than before the pandemic, a new Ernst & Young survey found those staying home full-time is on the decline. In fact, 34% of executives surveyed last year said they had a remote work model, compared to only 1% of executives now. But that doesn't mean it's back to the cubicles all week either. 80% of business leaders surveyed said they're confident in the hybrid strategy now, a mix of home and office. And WFH research says while full-time remote can lower productivity a bit, hybrid work appears to have no impact on productivity and still helps with employee recruitment and retention. Now, some labor experts expect the hybrid trend to continue as companies figure out how to manage schedules and workflow. In fact, ZipRecruiter's chief economist told USA Today she expects the hybrid model to become the new normal. Thank you so much for joining us as part of your daily routine. We'll catch you up on more news to know tomorrow. Until then, have a great day.